Hello everyone. Good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning here in India, and I wanted to start off with this week with a message, and I felt the best thing to talk about at this point of time is love. Love is something that we have universally accepted as a form of the greatest lessons, the greatest joy, and the greatest expression ever, and the only thing that brings the whole universe together. Now today, why I wanted to talk about this in specific, if you look at the title of this video message, it says, is it safe to love? The world has sadly come to a point now when people are starting to doubt if it's really safe to love from deep within. Because a lot of us who have ended up being hurt as a result of giving so much, so deeply. I think there are many of us who experience that. So as a result of that, we have started to wonder if it's safe to love that deeply. Is there something called loving enough? Well, you can never love enough, because love doesn't have limits. Love gives unconditionally. Love can give in any form, and love does not necessarily have to restrict itself to certain terms like soulmates and twin flames, and it does not have to only be something that has to be labeled. Love is something that is universal. Love is something that is in each one of us, and we have all been blessed with it, the ability to give and receive freely, to love as deeply as you can possibly at any point of time in your life believe you can. It's sad, as I said, that this world has come to a point where many of us are wondering, is it okay to love that deeply? And yet we still look for that kind of love in others. We look for that depth. We do look for that unconditional love. We all have always hungered for love, because that is the one thing that we have come searching for in this dimension, love. Unfortunately, most of us ended up accumulating everything else but that. We accumulate everything from ego to war to hatred to greed, everything else. We have decided to surpass the need to even express ourselves, our love for others, because we think that, it's no longer safe. We build walls because some relationship just doesn't seem to satisfy you, failing to see that maybe there is something that you don't see in it, failing to see that maybe there's a lesson in that particular relationship that you are meant to take away. And that does not mean that you stop loving. That does not mean that you stop trusting others. That does not mean that you refuse love. Because love is the only thing that keeps everything together, every one of us together. And there has been enough and more separation through religions, through other systems, through different beliefs, and the way the world is at this point of time. There is enough isolation. There is enough separation. There is enough diversity. We don't need to do it with love too. Can we all love beyond everything that we see? Yes, we can. And we have the power to love as deeply as we want. So how can you love safely? You cannot love safely. To give self-respect and self-love is the only thing that you probably need to focus on when it comes to loving safely. Would you, if someone was to look at you, would you be the person that they think they can safely love? Have you built that around you? Are you the kind of person someone else can say, I can safely love her or him without worrying about anything? Or are you the kind of person who has held back your emotions because you're afraid of loving? How would you feel if someone else you're looking up to does that? A lot of us in this world have started to withdraw ourselves from expressing love at a much deeper level. Most of relationships in families amongst loved ones, among friends, is very superficial. The very term "I love you" has become so superficial. It comes just from the throat. It doesn't come from the heart. Just expressing "I love you," the word has lost its zest. It's lost its depth. It's lost its meaning. So when you reach out to someone and say "I love you," let it come from your heart, not just from the mouth. And I would say that it's important that each one of us takes this seriously. When you have faced a bitter relationship, when you have gone through some kind of relationship or incident in your life where someone has hurt you, or it has, or you even seem to be going through a series of relationships or issues that seem to, make you lose trust in the fact that you can even love people anymore. That is losing trust in humanity. And that is unfair. Because not everyone is that way. And those who are inflicting this harm, they need love. They need love. At one point of time, Jesus said, "Love your enemies." He does not literally mean go out there and love your enemies. He meant to say send them off with love and light. Because they need it more than you do. It does not mean that if someone is hitting you, you don't turn around and say, "I love you." But you send them off with love. Knowing that at some point in their soul, that would matter to them more than you know. You would leave an impact that you may have long forgotten, but they will remember. It's perfectly okay to lose a little bit of ego if that little love that you're passing on to someone who hurts you is going to change their lives at some point. Because you are a representation of love. You are a representation of what you came to do. If some of you want to know, all right, I have had many people ask me now, see, I have so much love to give, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I would say start anywhere. Start anywhere. Every single soul you meet out there needs love in some form or the other. Someone. Just smile. Just say you love them. Say something that would make them happy. Make them feel, this is the only thing that I knew how to do. And it wasn't something unnatural. I think a lot of people were afraid to love. And I have been hurt too. I'm not immune to pain. I've been through more pain than most of you can imagine. But I've never stopped loving. You know why? Because I know that at some point in their lives, they will remember me for the love I've given. That's what matters. Because at the end of the day, every one of us belong for love. At some point, we all break down and look for just that. When we are done chasing our dreams, when we are done chasing wealth and everything else, and power, when we're done with all of that, when you're lying in your deathbed someday, or when you have moments to live, the only thing that you will think is how much of love you've accumulated, who's surrounding you at that point of time. It's not how much money you've got in your bank account. It's not how big a house you have. It's none of that. And some of us, we say, I have ego and I can't give so much, and then, I know the person's going to hurt me, or I feel that giving so much of me away, I'm just putting myself into a vulnerable situation. Really now? What are you losing by loving people so deeply? What are you going to lose? Are you going to take away your ego and go back to the other side and achieve something? I don't think so. Ego can be used constructively only for self-respect and self-love. That is the only positive way of using your ego. If you're going to use it against other people, the only thing that you're going to do is waste your time, and you're going to build up karma. This is the only two things that you end up doing with your ego. So going out of the way and loving someone, going out of the way and saying something that will actually make somebody's day pushing your ego aside and doing things for people, if that is going to build your ego up, well, I would say you're wasting your time, because that is not going to help you in any way. The only thing that will help you evolve, the only thing, even for the most so-called enlightened people out there, all those who say, oh, I'm a spiritual person, and you like to put labels to everything so that it's so complicated enough that this whole spiritual community turns into another religious system. I would like to tell you that we are here to send love, to give love. Simple terms, simple ways of explaining to people who are out there lost and they need answers. They don't need your terms. They don't need you to tell them how complicated it can get to learn about the chakras, to learn about the different DNA activations and all of those terms, the fancy terms that make it look into another business. People don't need that. What people need is simplicity. Because love is very simple. Let's not confuse people. Let's not complicate things unnecessarily. It's not even required. I was so disturbed by the fact that even those who are gifted, even those who were blessed with gifts to serve humanity, thought that humanity should serve them because they're gifted. So there is a lot of distortion with love, even amongst those who came to serve, because they are so distorted, they are lost themselves. But does that mean that we don't love them? No. We accept them too, because they're a part of us. They're a part of us. So love is not unsafe. Love is safe. The only thing that you lose is a little bit of ego, and that ego is really of no use at all. It's only going to add up to your karma. It's only going to be wasting precious time. If you don't learn that lesson at that point of time about ego, you are just going to come right back here. I would rather save all that time and just don't mind smiling a little more at someone who looks sad, to say how beautiful someone is, to hug someone even though you don't want to go to sleep angry or sad. You don't lose your ego by just hugging someone before you go to bed. It doesn't matter if the person doesn't even hug you back. What are you going to lose, really? So is it safe to love? You have to ask, not that question, but you have to ask, are you safe to love? Are you the kind of person others would look at and say, this person is safe to love? That's what you need to think about, because if each one of us was to think that, the world would be a better place to live in for us and for our children. Thank you so much for listening into the video message. I don't want to keep talking. I believe I've spoken what has to be spoken at this point of time, and I hope that this video is shared, because the message of love has to go out there, and there's no better way than to share it. God bless you all. Namaste.